1, 2, 3. How's it going, guys? How are we doing? Welcome to a brand new video tutorial from I. Anyways, so after a couple of days, actually, after covering bugs and everything, we have a really awesome topic to talk about, actually, is about how to create an extension or how to extend Visual Studio Code. So creating an extension for Visual Studio Code, we're gonna see it throughout this video tutorial. So I've been like, if you have actually been using Visual Studio Code, the really awesome and great code editor that a lot of people have been migrating to for the couple of the last 2 years or something, they've been all liking it, and a lot of features have been added into this, a lot of extensions. It has a huge library of extensions made by the community, and a lot of people are using it. I use a lot of extensions. If you can take a look on my extensions list in here, I have a lot of them actually. So yeah, without further ado, why would you actually create an extension for Visual Studio Code? So one of the reasons you want to create an extension for Visual Studio Code is for yourself. So if you have like a problem or you want to automate some process, so let's say on your project, on every project you create, you do some something like you try to create a couple of 3 files that configures with your server, or try to configure with your custom server, with your custom server thing that doing behind the scenes, your custom generation. So these 3 files, you've been doing it for every project you create, or whenever you try to deploy this or share it with your team, or I don't know, someone clone it or something like this. You can automate this by creating an extension with the editor you're liking. In this case, we're using Visual Studio Code. So you create an extension for that, and you just, click the other button, or using command prompt, like, you say here using a command prompt, create config, for project or something like this, and it does that for you, the extension you're going to create. Or otherwise, you can just go create an extension that you release for people that uses for solving a specific problem, something like this, or even automating a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes in your projects. So creating an extension is really awesome thing to do with Visual Studio Code. And Visual Studio Code, to be honest, it provides an awesome API to interact with. So if taking a look on the list of the available extensions here, there are a lot of them, and there's some awesome extensions like this One Dark Pro, a theme, or even creating a theme. I totally forgot what I was saying about. You can also create a theme. So if you've liked a theme on, I don't know, Atom or Sublime Text, and you really want to take this theme and make it possible in Visual Studio Code, you can do that as well. It's an extension. Everything is an extension if you want to create it. So you can clearly see there's a list of extensions in here. If you want to grab an extension, you can go to marketplace.visualstudiocode or visualstudio.com/Visual Studio Code and search for the extension in here. You can choose just from the Visual extension in here, and you can install it normally. But our point in here is how we can create an extension. So it has a documentation for creating an extension. You can just go into the documentation on code.visualstudio.com and searching on the docs in here, you can just find extension generator and overview about how extensions gets created and how the actual process or the whole Visual Studio protocol, the editor itself, how it works and how extensions interacts with. So you can clearly take a look on this schema and how it works and everything to understand the behind the scenes and everything. But for now, we just want to go ahead and create an extension. I really recommend going ahead and reading through that, because it's going to give you a lot of information, a lot of more, info about how extensions actually work behind the scenes, and how to create an advanced extensions and performance friendly extensions for your preferable code editor. So jumping into this section that matters for us, and we first gonna need to install a couple of things for starting with creating an extension. And for creating an extension, we've got to create a specific project that interacts with Visual Studio Code, with the specific modules that we've got from the actual npm repository and install it on our project. So we've got to do specific things that will let us create extension or use the Visual Studio Code API. So first things, you've got to go ahead and install or run this install command. I'm using Cmender in here. I don't know, Commander or whatever people actually call it, but I'm using that, and using just like a normal cmd.exe shell in here, so it can easily type that with no problems. So what we're gonna need to do is just go ahead and install globally, and make sure to install that globally Yo. So Yo, what is it? It's just like a library or a framework that allows you, or a tool to better say, it's an automation tool that allows you actually to create or generate projects for many other frameworks, for many editors, libraries. It lets you generate the projects that will allow you to actually work with them very, very easy without going into the actual, heavy and ass building process that it's really, heavy for you guys, and it really, tired to create a project for, or set up a project from scratch for dealing with the library, like for example, React or Angular or something like this. So you're gonna go to Yo, and the second thing I'm gonna need is install generator-code. So those are really important to make sure to install them globally, as I've said. I already did that process, so just run that. It's gonna take a couple of minutes because it has a lot of things actually in the code generator. And to be honest, let me just take a look on yoman.io. So this is the extension that allows us to generate or generate a scaffolding project for any tool out there. So it's available for Angular, Backbone, React, Polymer, plain all of things. Whatever you actually look like for, you're gonna find it, or you're gonna find a scaffolding generator tool really made by you from Yoman tool, just on GitHub or whatever. So you need to install that and work with it. So I'm just going to show you how you can use this and how you can generate for this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up a new one in here. So I don't know why this is just, I don't know, the thing stopped working or something. So I've got to just go ahead and open up a new thing in here, and make sure to go ahead and choose the directory where you want to put the projects. It really matters. So it doesn't really matter for me because I already did that, but I just want to show you how you can create it. So just type in Yo, since we have installed it globally, so it's available for everything. So just type in Yo in here, and we've got to type code. So which means we're going to generate a project specifically for the Visual Studio Code. So this is just like a scaffolding for Visual Studio Code extension project. So just type in that. It will try to run behind the scenes, and it just gonna gives you some choices. You can take a look on them on this particular page. This page actually provides you the whole steps you need to create a project and set up an extension pretty much, and it gives you a little bit of information in getting started with extensions. So there we go, we've got a list in here. So what you actually need to choose on the list is depending on what you want to create. For the extension, there isn't actually one single type of extension or something like this. There's plenty of them, and you probably need to create, I don't know, like different themes and different type of extensions. There is like a TypeScript or a normal extension, normal Visual Studio Code extension that interacts with the, the core API of Visual Studio Code. Using TypeScript, but if you're not familiar with JavaScript, TypeScript or something, just go ahead with JavaScript because everything is built in JavaScript in here. And I'm going to use JavaScript, to be honest. You can create a color theme, as I've been talking about. You can create a language support, which means add a brand new language support for that. So let's say you've created a new language like Dart for Flutter or something like this. You can just go ahead and add the support for Visual Studio Code. You can, add a code snippet, a key map, an extension pack, which is holding like multiple extensions for you, a language pack, multiple languages, and so on and so forth. So all of this are available for you, and you can create from them. But we're just going to simply go ahead and choose the new extension JavaScript. So make sure to do that. And you just gonna ask you about the name of your extension. So for the name, I'm just gonna go ahead and do console. I'm gonna say console log cleaner. So I'm just gonna create an extension that allows me to clean or remove the console log code or console log lines from my files or projects. So whenever you just run that command or run it to clear that, it just goes every single one and tries to clear that. Just like an example, there is plenty of extensions out there on the marketplace that does that same thing, but I just want to visualize this for you guys and give you how the API actually works and how things actually work. So just give it a name, then you can give it an identifier. I'm just going to use the same name as an identifier. Then you can give it whatever description in here. You can give it a description, because if you're willing to publish this or deploy this into the marketplace for people to download it and use it like a real world thing for deploying, you might want to add this. You take this seriously for putting the description together, putting the identifier together. But if you wanted to just do it for testing purposes, just put whatever in here, then press enter. After pressing enter, what is going to happen is it just gives you that you want to enable checking for JavaScript configuration. You might say yes. Yes, if you want to initialize a Git repository, most cases you want to do that on which package manager you want to use. I'm going to use for Node Package Manager, and it's all it does in here. It's just going to create a couple of things on our project, and it starts immediately installing the modules we're going to need for our project. So I already did that. I already set up a project. This might take a couple of minutes, so we don't really want to waste that time on this particular thing. So after just, we need to wait for that, and everything's going to be created for you on a single separate folder. So, a new folder with the name of the console log cleaner, with the name of your extension that you've typed up there, and it's going to be created on the, the directory you are actually in here, and everything is going to be in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that. I already have been there, so I don't really need to create that one more time. There we go. I just need to open it using Visual Studio Code. You can do the same, just, by going to the projects and opening it normally as you would do with any other projects. And there we go. So this is the actual projects setup. This is the, the directories on there, the projects files, and all of the configurations inside of that. So this is really, really important. And for getting started, so after watching this video or something like this, you want to just go deeper and deeper. You can go ahead and read the Visual Studio Code extension quick start MD file or readme file. So this allows you to give you quick introduction about extension, what it does, and the main thing about this project and how it works and everything. So in here, I just don't really want to do any of that. I'm just gonna take it simply without problems, and I'm gonna get rid of that. So I already put that the last thing there, so I'm just gonna get rid of that 1 second and get rid of that as well. So I don't really want to put anything. So you're gonna get everything in here, like extension.js on the file in here, and if you just go to the package.json, you're gonna find a little bit different in the package.json than you have been dealing with if you try to create a Node.js project before or something like this. You're gonna find you've got a name, a display name, a version which starts from 001, the categories and the activation events. So these events are specifically made for Visual Studio Code event system, and you've got a main, which is the main entry point. From this particular area, you can clearly tell that whenever you try to execute this, or whenever the extension starts executing, it starts from the entry point of the file extension.js, which is right over here. So this is the main entry point, extension.js, and we've got a couple of commands to be running in here and scripts for testing and stuff, and we've got our dev dependencies that needs to be installed for the extension actually to work perfectly. So this is all you're gonna need to know about that. For the extension, as I've told you before, let me just delete that because it's going to be a little bit, more later about this. But for the extension.js in here, what we've got, this is the main entry point, which means whenever the extension starts, whenever you try to activate the extension, this is the first file that gets executed from the Node.js environment, or Visual Studio Code gonna go ahead and execute this extension.js file firstly. So if you just quickly just go ahead and take a look on that, what we've got in here, we're requiring Visual Studio Code. And by doing this, what do you mean? I'm getting the actual API methods or the interaction of Visual Studio Code. This is what you've got to need to do. This is going to be installed for you automatically, so you don't really need to care about anything else. And you've got a function in here, right over here. So this function is called activate, and the name in here is, really matters. You don't really want to change that or something, because Visual Studio Code has that by default. And you have another function that's called deactivate. So the activate function, what it does, whenever you try to run the extension from the command palette, for example, because most of the extensions on Visual Studio Code, to run an extension or something like this, you've got to go ahead and open up the command palette. To do so, you can just go ahead, I think, here, so you can just go to view and just click command palette, or you can just go through Control-Shift-P and it just opens to you a command palette up there. So opening command palette, you can search for the extension name. In this case, there's an extension, for example, in here that's called Polo Code, which turns some code into an awesome screenshot or something like this, an awesome snippet code, which is pretty helpful. But this is how you can basically open up an extension on Visual Studio Code. So whenever we try to run that, as we did in a couple of seconds, we try to run the Polo code. In this case, we are actually calling the activate function. So the activate function gets called whenever we search for our extension name on the command palette and press enter to run that. So this is what you've got to need to know about the extension and how it gets running. So the first thing gets executed once you call the extension is the activate function, and inside of the activate function it has like a context. Inside of this context, what it does is simply the main context of the actual editor we are running on, which is the Visual Studio Code editor context, gets passed into, and here we've got a console log, which means just like for testing purposes, it says by default that is congratulations, your extension name in here is now active, which means it's running and everything. And here the main part in here. So what we've got in here, we've got Visual Studio Code, which means we are accessing the API, but we're accessing the commands API, and we are registering a command. What I mean by registering a command is simply like whenever you use like the command palette, everything in here you find, for example, the Polo code or opening default browser, which is an extension in itself, or clear console logs, another different extension than we're actually creating. And for the register command method, what it does is just simply puts the name in here. So it just tries to register the command on the command palette and everything. So for the extension, and we're actually going to tell it to grab the name from the package.json. So it goes into the extension object and clear console logs. For you, probably gonna find it hello world or something. I already changed that, so you can change that as well, and make sure to change it into the pack.json. So then the pack.json, scroll the way down till you find commands. So enter contributes commands, and here you've got like a couple of commands, which means an array of commands actually. So we've got a command 1, which is the command that we're putting, extension.clear console logs, and the title of the command, which means that gets displayed on the command palette. So this is the title, the other one is the title, and everything in here is the title, and this is the command name. So make sure to put whatever title here. And this title, what I'm putting in here, I'm putting clear console logs in beta, which means, you know, to get a different name from the other extension I've already installed or something like this. So just give it a name that gets displayed on the command palette, and this is the extension command that gets executed. So you've got to need to reference that, the same thing in here, without mistakes to work perfectly. The second thing it takes, so this is the first parameter, is actually the name of the extension or the command of the extension. The second one is the actual callback that gets executed once we click on the actual command panel. So for example, we're going to click on the Polo code in here. This function or this callback is going to be executed for us. And here you can put whatever thing, you can take this as the entry point of your program that gets executed something. And we're going to just simply, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code.window. Remember, we are actually accessing the actual Visual Studio Code context, so we can access whatever we want. We can access the terminal. We can access, the Explorer, the Site Area Explorer, we can access extensions, the debugger, we can access or modify the settings. We can even access Windows, which means the basic Windows API that allows us to create windows or delete windows or put some custom text and show windows just arbitrary like this, and we can do plenty of other things. So using the window namespace in here, just accessing the window namespace, and we can just go ahead and show information message, and this will allow us to show a pop-up on Visual Studio Code. So for example, I'm just gonna put yay, our extension is activated or something. So just to make sure that everything is working pretty much fine. To show that in the window, you can actually as well access the console log and get printing something in the console log as we were doing up here and everything. So yeah, this is what you basically want to take about. This is the main entry point. Whenever someone clicks on the command palette on something, this is what gets executed and everything. But now, what about the disposal thing that is happening here? So as you can clearly see, the register command method returns a disposal object, which has the type actually of disposal. What is this is whenever we try to exit the Visual Studio Code, or the extension just did the job, gets activated, now it's time to deactivate, which means destructs or gets removed from the actual memory to free up some space from the memory. So this is gonna be you've got to put that in the context subscriptions, then push it, which means it's an array, and put in disposal there. So whenever you register a new command, make sure to put disposal in the subscriptions array in order to make sure that everything gets freed out of the memory because it works with pointers and stuff. So this is a really awesome or good step to do if you want to keep everything clear and your extension safe and everything with no problems and bugs. So now to run an extension, enough talking about how it works and stuff. For an extension, you simply need to go ahead and run the debug mode. And likely on Visual Studio Code, we have like an integrated debug mode in here that runs everything. What you simply need to do, you can just press F5 to run the debug mode, or you can just go ahead and into the green icon up here to run the debug mode. But I'm just gonna press an F5 in here, and everything gonna work fine for you pretty much. And you can clearly notice that it opens a new instance of Visual Studio Code for us with no problems. So in this particular window in here, what we're having, let me just go back into where we were. So this particular window is just for development purposes. You can clearly notice the title has been changed into extension development host, which is only for development purposes. And now in this particular window in here, what we have is we have actually the extension activated and we can use it. And as I've said, to access an extension or run it, we've got to go ahead into the command palette and we have got to type the extension name, which we have put in the pack.json on the command. I've put it like a title. So whatever title you put in here, you're gonna find it right over there on the command palette, which is in this case, I've put it console logs beta, not this one, because this one is actually a separate extension. I've installed a third-party one, but this our custom extension. Just by clicking that, I've got this. So yay, extension is activated. So clearly see, we've got our first window popped up for us, and we've created and showed it into actually Visual Studio Code, and we have got our first interaction with the VS Code API. Awesome. So let's just go ahead and jump into a little bit more deeper thing rather than that. So let's just go and try to make our application or our clear console cleaner thing extension works pretty much as we expect it to be. So therefore, let me just go and jump and stop the debugger right over here. And I'm going to go ahead and do the root project and create a new script, which we're going to name it cleaner.js, which is going to handle the cleaning process of the console logs. So if you have like a file and it has like different console logs only for debugging purposes, what this extension is going to do for you, it just goes through each one of those and deletes it. But since it's not really working and everything, I just want to point out and show you actually guys how to interact with the Visual Studio Code API and give you an introduction how it actually works. So got everything behind the scenes. I'm just going to copy paste it, so we don't really want to waste time and everything. I'm just going to explain what I'm doing behind the scenes in here. So first, I'm just going to grab the Visual Studio Code, core API. And for that, I've got a class in here. The class, it has one single method, clear console logs. I'm going to, create an instance of this class and call this method later on. And in this particular time, what I'm doing in here is grabbing the actual editor. And what I'm telling you here, Visual Studio API window, accessing the actual window, and I'm getting the currently active editor. What I mean by that is the actual editor that's currently active. So in this case, the current active editor in this particular Visual Studio Code instance is the clear.js document or file. If we change that, this is now active. This is the default one active. So this variable holds the currently active editor. So we got that in a variable. Then we make sure that's not null or undefined, which means it's a valid and everything. Otherwise, if it's null or undefined, we're just going to show up a message. Our error message tells it that there's no editor open up. So you've got open up an editor first, then we can run the extension for you. Afterwards, what we're gonna do is just grab the documents. And what I mean by a document is each Visual Studio Code instance or each Visual Studio Code editor. So this is a single editor, the other one is a single editor, and so on and so forth, is initialized or linked with a specific document. The document has the actual data of the editor, which means has the text that you actually see in here. It has some snippets. It has, you can get specific line of code out of position or out of range. You can, you can edit the actual file out of it and so on and so forth. So the document holds the actual data or the context of the editor. Okay, so we got the document up there. Then we get the actual text of the document using the get text method out of the document, which returns us a normal string text with a decorated string like with a / and everything. So everything there. And what I want to do in here is like find everything that represents a console log, and I'm using in here a regular expression to match the console log lines. So whenever you find, for example, a console.log, something like this with just finding a console log would do the job for me. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this using the extension. Whenever we run it, using the command palette. So this is the main idea behind how the extension actually works. I'm just going to get rid of that just for testing purposes. What I'm doing in here, I'm just splitting the text using the initialize. So split the text, then we map through the text, we get each line of it, and we get the index, of course, and then we use the regular expression, we test through the code line. So if the code line has any console log or something, so it is an actual console log, it's not something like a variable or any other expression, so it's actually a console log. What we're going to need to do, just console log, we found this, and we just, do an information message. We found the code line with the console log. So in this case, I'm not deleting or doing something anything rather than that, because it's a little bit more advanced and complicated. But I just want to point out to you guys and show you how the API interacts with each other and how you can use it. And finally, whenever you're creating a different class in a separate file, you've got to go ahead and export this. So module.export and cleaner, and this is everything is based on Nodejs. So there's no ES6 or ES5 is present in here. So you've got to use the Nodejs system in here. So you always need to remember that. Now, under the extension, since the entry point is here, I've got to go ahead and remember that or require it. So I'm just going to say cleaner. So I've got to get the class, and I'm going to require this really quick. So I'm just going to go ahead and get the cleaner out of the script file that we've created. Afterwards, after we get the cleaner, everything, I'm just going to go ahead and create an instance of it since it's a class. So we're going to initiate an object. So I'm going to go ahead and say cleaner equals new cleaner. And, we create a new cleaner right over here. Create a new instance out of it, and now what we want is whenever you click we activate the actual extension out of the command palette or from the command palette, what we need to do is just call clear console logs. So we actually call our methods, and this is everything you've got to need to do. You can also in here go into the context and subscription and disposer and everything, and you can actually dispose or add the cleaner class to get disposed whenever the application or the extension has finished doing everything in its job, so we can free up some memory. So yeah, there we go. So this is all you're gonna need to do for a class, and when you have things like this, just initiating a class and calling your method that does the job, and there you go. Make sure just to only call it under the function callback, which is the entry point of the command that gets executed once we click on the or choose it from the command palette, and there we go. So this is all you've got to need to think about. And for the deactivate function, what it does is pretty much deactivate the extension once we get or exit the Visual Studio Code or something. Don't really need to worry about that because it has a documentation, but for simply creating an extension and interacting with the API, this is all you've got to need to do. You can now just go ahead and run the debug mode, so F5 as I've said before, and it runs to you an extension development host for Visual Studio Code. And I'll try to go ahead and use and just type or choose clear console logs. Look what it tells me. There is no open text editors, which is right. So we have no open text editors or something like this. But if we try to put in here, for example, I'm going to put console log, hello there, and I'm going to put a variable me equals new date, for example, and I'm going to another thing in here. I'm going to put another console log, which is going to be an empty no console log. So just for testing purposes and making sure that everything is working pretty much fine. Now, if we need to run the command palette again, make sure the currently open editor is the active editor. You're not actually putting the welcome or something like this. You make sure to go and your selection is on the currently editor you want to run the extension on, and run the command palette, click console logs beta, and there we go. We've got the message. So console.log, the first console.log in here, and console.log hello there, which is this one. So it's getting everything. It's getting all of the console logs, but it's not getting the actual lines of code, the actual expressions and stuff, and the variable declarations, which is pretty good. We can take a look at that as well on the debug console, on the the terminal tab view in here, and you've got everything like all the console logs on the actual documents or the file, everything is there, and the extension is pretty much working fine. But it's not deleted or anything. You can implement that. You can put that as an example for you or as a practice for you. But this is just a simple thing to point out to you and show you how everything actually works behind the scenes and how you can integrate or create whatever extension you want using Visual Studio Code API. Now for the API, you can go ahead and just take a look on the API in here. There's everything you want to need to know about the API if you really want to create a real world extension. But rather than that, that was actually video tutorial for Visual Studio Code. Very simple thing, really fast. I just want to show you why creating Visual Studio Code extensions is really, really awesome, and you should consider doing something like this if you're really using or loving using Visual Studio Code on your daily basis. So thank you guys for watching. I really, really do hope you guys have enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe, push that like button right now, and I don't know, your helpful comments really help me out throughout the tutorials and making more tutorials, being more creative and stuff like this. So thank you guys for watching this video again. I'll see you all hopefully in the next one.